Hi everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll give you a few seconds to get settled. Already see some usual faces or names, I should say. Guy, hi Guy, how are you? Feng, hi. Tuan, hi. Yeah, we have a very special session today, as you can see in the window to my left or to my right, depending on how you have your setup. You will see Mr. John Cruft, who we're delighted to welcome back to our ELT times.
Yes,
Hi, John. How are
thank you, Dale. Great to be here, mate. Yeah, brilliant. Looking forward to it.
Good.
Some familiar names there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Toto's in. We had a question from Toto as well. I might try and get to that later if we can. All right. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Let us know where you're watching from. We always like to know where you're. So we got Phuket. Oh, wouldn't you like to be in Phuket, John?
Would be nice. Would be nice. Depends where.
Yeah.
Depends where in Phuket. But yeah.
Ho Chi Minh City as well. Yeah, lovely. And we've got our bank guy in Bangkok. Yeah, Cambodia, China. Okay, so I'm all over the region. That's fantastic. All right. So today, as you all will likely know, we're going to be talking about teacher training. And I was going to introduce you, John, but I think we could probably just sort of introduce ourselves in terms of the first kind of question. So we've got a list of questions here that you will have seen on the agenda. The first question, how did you become a trainer? So maybe, obviously, John, you can begin and let us know a little bit about your potted history, how you got to where you are at the moment.
Real, yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, and yeah, it's been a really nice process. Looking back, actually, and I don't think about it that often, to be honest. But when you do, yeah, it's a sort of nice sort of pathway which I'd love to share. I guess it began. I mean, as everyone here, you begin as a teacher, right? And you sort of
Yeah.
build yourself up as a teacher, build your credibility. And then I started doing sort of in-house training sessions for teachers when I worked for a private language school. So I became a sort of senior teacher for a private language school, which involved giving these in-service training sessions to teachers, new teachers once a week. Yeah, and kind of built on that really, and that kind of led to do some freelancing for Macmillan back in 2008 or 9, I think, many years ago. Got my foot in the and got my foot in the door there. Just kind of practical sessions really. Not much sort of theory involved at that stage, to be honest. It was more kind of practicalities of how to teach sort of a course book. And then went away and went to different contexts, worked with different teachers. Supported different teachers, and then went back to school quite a lot and did a master's and a diploma in TESOL, and sort of continued working again across Asia in different contexts, building up the experience. But that stage was more kind of adding a bit more theory to the sort of the practical in the training. So yeah, it's been a lovely kind of progression really, and I'm sure I'll have a chance to share more and kind of more about the sort of how to do it as well as we go through.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, well, just a quick sort of follow-up. Did you aspire to it, or was it something that you kind of fell into, or did you say at the start of your career, I'm going to do some teaching, and then I'm going to be a teacher trainer? What were your thoughts about that?
No, it just kind of happened naturally, and I ended up really enjoying the teaching. I was in a great school, and as part of my early teaching experience, I was very lucky to have very good in-center professional development sessions, which I received from good academic managers or director of studies. So that kind of inspired me as well, and thought, oh, I could do that. And yeah, as you build up experience and then try out your first kind of training session for teachers yourselves, they're kind of something I really enjoyed, and they took a lot from it, I think, and I enjoyed it, they enjoyed it, and thought, oh, I could do this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably definitely a similar, and I think that you really do need is someone who inspires you to sort of do this and take it, take professional development as an an ongoing process, and somebody who gives you that aspiration that you can then do it yourself and then want to continue to do it. I think we both have that similar person in our careers. Yeah, I mean, I started very similar to you as a teacher, and then and got lots of experience just in the classroom, and then I moved to an organization that really took teacher training as something that was very important and sort of drove everything in the teacher's room. We had a inset every Friday that we often had to deliver ourselves. So right from an early stage in my career, I was expected to share knowledge and share ideas. It was always very practical, although you were encouraged to be theoretical as well if you wanted to. But in those early stages, just bringing your ideas into and giving it to other people. So lots of sharing sessions, like and basically facilitating those. And then as I went through my career, sorry, were you going to say something? Sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, as a kind of note to anyone who's looking to move into teacher training, is I think the first thing is to find a school or institution that really values your professional development and gives you opportunities and is open for you to delivering sessions. If you're not in a school like that, I would move and just
I think I'd agree, and certainly I worked in a school that had a very not I wouldn't say, I think, well, very, very progressive, a director of studies that was really wanted us all to get better and really push this, but then also left it up to us. So while it was kind of top down in terms of it was part of the culture, driven by the management, it was actually bottom up in terms of who delivered the training. And I think that was really helpful because we all felt like we had a responsibility. We're all accountable to each other on delivering the training. I then went to an organization which is quite famous. I won't name it, but if you look at my bio, you can probably find out, where I assumed that the teacher training there would be on another level and it would be, it would be incredible. But in fact, we were expected to develop ourselves, have our own development, put plans in place. But unfortunately, I felt like we weren't given enough teacher training. So then I set up my own sort of teacher training within the center because I'd have experience of it before. And then that just continued. So it was kind of like, it was just something that was part of what I did, regardless of whether I did then become a senior teacher and tried to bring that into it. But it was just something that came from within because I'd experienced it at previous organizations, and it was just, this is what you have to do. Yeah.
You've got passion for it. And I think, going back then, if you're not in an organization that values professional development, then maybe, your plan A would be like you did then, to kind of push it yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Reach out to the director of studies and say, like, can I put on a session once a month or something and build up? And you may be able to build that culture yourself if you have that passion.
Exactly. And I think that then helped me because when it came to then applying for other positions above that, so I was a teacher, I think maybe a coordinator at the time, but I aspired to become a senior teacher in management. I had that in my back pocket, that I developed this teacher training system within the center that I worked in. So that really helped me then to become promoted and then to sort of continue that with my line managees and hopefully helping them to develop. So it kind of, it snowballs. But I didn't finish my story. But then I was working for this organization. I did some freelance training for Macmillan through yourself, through Warissa in Bangkok. And then from that, unfortunately, a full-time position became available, and I interviewed and I got the job, and I was working obviously very closely with you, and you helped me and developed me in the same way. So I was very lucky that very lucky. I mean, I wouldn't work with people who weren't going to develop me, but you took on that mantle of what the other people did before, and really and helped me flourish again within the role that I'm in. So thank you for that.
And I think you made another really good point there about maybe getting your foot in the door first. Reaching out to publishers, for example, or other institutions, or it could be educational charities or anything like that, and say, look, I'm keen to put on a session. Here's my CV. Here's what I could do, and that could lead anywhere really. But without getting yourself out there, without getting your foot in the door, and maybe doing a trial session, people won't necessarily remember you or sort of reach out and contact you. You have to kind of push a little bit, don't you, I guess?
Absolutely. I think that's definitely the key. It's sort of, sometimes it will be sort of, chance meetings. You might go to a conference and ask someone, and they might be looking for a trainer, because we can't fly everywhere and go everywhere and do these sessions. So we always need freelance trainers and things like that. So, and I know that's the same with every publisher. So yeah, if you are interested, get your CV out to people and make yourself known that you're there and ready. So then the next question actually sort of leads on to that. So we've done, how did you become a trainer? So what do I need to know to become a trainer? So what do you think?
That's a good question. I was thinking actually about the differences between teaching and kind of training. And when you break it down, actually sort of a lot of the core skills, this is my opinion, are quite similar in many ways. If you can communicate your lesson in a very sort of clear way, using kind of training outcomes as you would do lesson outcomes, you can manage the group, use different interaction patterns, use a variety of activities, you can facilitate it, and then give feedback and wrap up. In general, it's a very sort of similar skill set, isn't it? But I guess you also need to know your topic, in more depth, to give you that credibility. You don't need to know everything, because you can draw on the experience of your trainees, can't you? And you shouldn't walk into the training room thinking that you know everything and you're going to teach them about the subject. It's about facilitating, drawing on what they know already, helping them maybe to extend that knowledge in different ways, try new things, challenge their thinking, and come out with kind of new, fresh ideas, isn't it, really?
Mm-hmm. I'd agree, and I think those sessions that you go to where the trainer, certainly my being in training sessions myself as a teacher, is those kind of sessions where you learn by doing. So the trainer will have an idea, you'll get to do the idea, and very similar to then being in a classroom as a student, because you're in fact you're pretending to be a student, so you can see the experience that students might get in the class. So I really like those. And so knowing lots and lots of activities that you would have as a teacher can really translate into being a trainer. But something you were looking at, I know, when you worked at Macmillan full time, and I'm interested to find out more, I hope I'm not putting you in the spot, was the actual science around how adult learners, adults learn, right? Which is different to how children learn. And what do you think about knowing more about the science around that? Did you find that important and useful in your training session?
Really important. And I think going back to what you said is like knowing lots of different activities. So for example, in a training session, if you know lots of different activities, it's not just about showing those activities, it's maybe getting the teachers to break those activities down and suggest how they would adapt it or extend it, for example, for their context. And that really sort of digs into kind of the immediacy of kind of like the problems or challenges that they have in the classroom, which is like linked to kind of adult learning theory. If you're walking into a training session and you are addressing key problems which will immediately help them in the classroom, that is one essential way that you can really deliver a good session and motivate them. And that's sort of part of the adult learning theory, kind of addressing sort of immediate sort of problems.
Yeah, I think that also that's a good point as well. I think it's important if you do want to become a trainer is to kind of keep up to speed with the sort of environment that you're working in. So say and that might be different. So say if you're working in a private language school where every day you're seeing 10 or 12 students in the evenings or the weekends, that's going to be a lot different to say if you're then sent to a government school where teachers are teaching 30 or 40, maybe even more, very much a mixed ability class where differentiation is needed. So having a knowledge of the education systems within the countries that you're going to be working in is really important, I think.
Yeah, and just to add maybe a bit more on that, and it's just essential to really sort of know your audience, isn't it? Know your audience and your trainees. If you're lucky enough to work in a school and you're giving ongoing training, maybe you've observed these teachers already, you kind of know what their needs and challenges are, and you can bring that into your training. But if you're dropping in for example, like a one-off, 3-hour training, it's very hard to know who they are, their teaching beliefs, motivations, their background, their challenges, all these kind of things. It's very tricky. So
what did you do to try and find that information out?
I think we would always have kind of calls, wouldn't we? Calls before the session, find out a little bit more from the academic managers, for example. But again, you still wouldn't get down to kind of where you wanted to be. So often you could try sort of pre-surveys. They could fill out about their motivations, their beliefs, their challenges. And then always maybe at the start of the session is to, some kind of activity at the start to, if you're doing a session on listening, for example, find out for them about their, beliefs about, how listening should be done in the classroom. What are their challenges? What kind of activities do they use? Some kind of activity at the start to then kind of base your session and your content on. Yeah.
Cool. All right, cool. Let's move on a little bit, and we're going to look at qualifications. This is one of the questions that we got early when we were registered. We're looking at how can teachers become a trainer? Do they need qualifications? And I've got the question here from our agenda. What qualifications are useful? We haven't actually spoken. You mentioned your master's in TESOL, but I'm sure that wasn't in were there elements of teacher training within that, or was it all teaching?
Yeah. Sorry, can you still hear me? I'm getting a thing in my ear saying low battery. I'm not sure if it's my personal low battery or my headphones. Yeah.
You're fine. I can hear you fine.
I think firstly I would say, I mean, once you're a teacher, for example, to get started in teacher training, you don't need any specific qualification. You just need a bit of passion and motivation to deliver your first in-service training. Once you enjoy it and think you might like to extend in this field, then you can go away and get qualified. And I did a diploma in TESOL, which was part of a MA TESOL, sort of master's degree. Did an MA in education as well, which gave us sort of a broader overview of educational systems, particularly across Asia. And then I did some specific teacher training courses, short courses. So I did one with Nile ELT, called Trainer Development. And I did one called the OTA, which is the Oxford Training Academy, which was when I was working with Oxford University Press as well. So, but I think the message there is just, if you can, just constantly look to upgrade your qualifications, your skill sets, and there's loads of good courses out there. And again, find an institution, a school that is willing to invest in you, invest time and hopefully a little bit of money if they see that will be beneficial for them as well. What
Yeah.
about you, Del?
Well, yeah, I started working for Macmillan without a specific teacher training qualification. I have, similar to you, had a diploma in TESOL and a master's in TESOL, but not with any specific teacher training element to it. So I had no formal teacher training qualifications when I started, but I had lots and lots of experience, obviously, from what I've been doing in the two companies that I worked for that really valued it. So I would agree, and certainly, you know, when you're looking for teacher trainers, we know you yourself have recruited, and I have. Yeah, the first thing, we're not looking for that certificate, that qualification straight away, but I think it is useful. Once you're in it and you know it's what you want to do, so then go ahead and get that, because the trainer development course with Niall, I did the same course as you, was really useful. I thought it really gave you some, yeah, like some theory behind the practicalities, and kind of really made me realize I was on the right path, and that there was lots and lots to learn about this, and it wasn't just a case, as like you say, of sort of replicating a class in with a group of teachers. There was a theory, and certainly, as Toto has put there, andragogy behind it, if you are teaching or training adults as well. So yeah, lots to learn and lots to think about and develop, I thought. What other advice would you give? What if let's actually go to the questions that I've got. It's a really good question. One question here is, well, I guess, how long does it take for a teacher to become a trainer? That's from Gita in Indonesia. I think we've answered that one already, because you can start today. It doesn't take long at all. And you're never going to be, it's lifelong learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, the way of the world now and sort of online learning of things, you could even, record yourself, talking about a few activities you did in your classroom and how you approached them, how you did them, what was successful, and post that online for people, and share it. That's a kind of the way of the world now, isn't it? There's sort of different ways. It doesn't have to be through a sort of formal channel. And in a school, for example, you can put yourself out there through blogs and videos,
Yeah.
and things, and that'll catch the attention of people as well, and that'll help you with your credibility when you speak to schools or publishers or charities, whoever you want to do teacher training for. Say, look, I've done this already. Look, here's a link to my videos online.
That's a really great idea, and yeah, with people's attention span and getting shorter and shorter, there's nice little snippets are really great, aren't they? And you can, yeah, you don't need too much technology to be able to do that. This is a great question from Amir. I haven't checked the participants if Emma's in the chat, but how can we, as trainers, motivate teachers who have no desire or passion to improve their practice professionally and continuously? So that's a good question, isn't it? I'll let you
Yeah,
start.
there's another question about highs and lows of training, and
Yeah, I'll come to that in a minute.
there's nothing worse than turning up at a school at 9 o'clock in the morning for a training session, and you've got a room full of teachers, and you've got a front row of teachers all with their arms crossed, terrible negative body language, exactly going, what can you tell me that
Yeah,
I don't already know, kind of attitude. It's absolutely frightening, isn't it?
yeah.
But those are some of the most satisfying sessions, isn't it, when you can take that negativity and then kind of show them different ways of kind of teaching, how they can solve their problems, challenges in different ways, which basically kind of refresh their teaching, and they walk away at the end of the session going, oh, actually some of those
Was
ideas were quite good, actually, and I can actually use those, right? So
yeah.
again, that sort of dips into the kind of the andragogy, right? The adult learning theory is, if you can dig in or tap in or connect to kind of challenges or problems that they are experiencing in the classroom and deal with them in the session, that is that will help. But there are also some deeper kind of theories around kind of change management theories. Do you remember kind of the house of change, when people have change in their lives, they kind of resist it first,
Yeah.
and then with coaching and by sort of modeling and showing them good ways, they try it out. You can slowly sort of walk their way through the different rooms of a change house into the room of contentment, where they feel
Yes.
happy. And it's a process, isn't it? It takes time. It's a process. But yeah.
Yeah, I would think I think the same thing. You kind of have to try and understand the motivations. Like you said, on a Monday morning and a trainer walks in, it is that understanding where they're coming from. Like you do with your learners, you have to, know who your students are, right? So you try and get to know who the teachers are, and you can sort of see that definitely within when you walk in a room. I always try to be really kind and be understanding that, yeah, it is Monday morning, and yeah, I'm probably the last person you want to meet, but I'm going to keep smiling, and I'm going to keep talking to you, and I'm going to ask you questions about you and what you do and how long you've been at the organizer, these kind of things, to really show that that I'm not there in a top-down sort of element. I want to be able to, like you said, ask you questions, find out what your pain points are, and try and help you, rather than just this is coming from the top, it's going to wash over you, and then at 10 o'clock you
Yeah.
can go.
I think that's a really good point, and just sort of going back to maybe some of the skills or competencies you need as a trainer as well. And I think you nailed it there. And there's a lot of extra kind of, what would we call them, kind of soft skills that you need, I think, as a trainer, sort of empathy and understanding, being able to sort of communicate your message. I think that you've tapped into there, which I think are really vital as well.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of that, though, is that you can generally communicate very effectively with the teachers, because you're all speaking a common language. Whereas with you, when you're thinking about comparing that with students, sometimes there might be a language barrier, whereas at least there's no language barrier. There might be a motivational barrier or a desire to be there barrier, but you can talk about that. You can be adults and discuss that and find out what's stopping them.
Can I just add really quickly on that one? And I'm just thinking, if teachers who are not motivated to do training, when they come to the senior teacher or academic manager and say, "Oh, my teenage students are not motivated in my classroom," it's like, well,
yes,
maybe if you kind of practice, what they preach, if you show more kind of passion for motivation and learning and development, then maybe that can, rub off on your students as well, right?
yeah, definitely.
Just food for thought.
All right, and then we've got wow, it's gone so fast. We've got 4 minutes left, and I really like Toto's question. Could you please share the highs and lows of this industry? Now, I'm going to change it a little bit, Toto, because I just think it'd be nice to finish with maybe let's start with a low and a high of your career within teacher training, John, if you could pick a couple of experiences.
A low and a high. Okay.
Maybe not a low. If you don't want to do a low, that's all right.
I mean, I've had I've been so lucky and privileged to be able to sort of travel around and work with a variety of different teachers in different contexts. And in terms of highs, I mean, it can be such a rewarding job, I think, feeling that you're making a difference, and sort of knowing that you could be kind of changing so many classrooms. You have a group of 25 teachers, they all have 3 classrooms, all with kind of 25 to 40 students. That's a lot of students that you could be, affecting, really. And that's definitely the high, I think. Yeah, in terms of lows, yeah, you have good sessions and bad sessions, and you're only as good as your last session, aren't you?
Yeah.
And if your last session's a terrible one, it's like a teacher, right? It makes you feel terrible, doesn't it? But you've got a good session just around the corner, and that will give you that kind of pickup that you need, won't it? But I think lows guess it's when you drop in for training, you don't really know the participants that well, and you get there and you speak to the academic manager, and actually the topic of the session is completely different to what you thought it was going to be, and so you have to make these immediate kind of changes and things. But hey, as a teacher, right, that's what you always need, a plan B. So I think having plan B, especially for technology, when you're using technology and PowerPoints and projectors and all kind of things, so many things can go wrong.
I would say the same. I mean, the lows have been very, very minor in consideration. Like you say, you might go to somewhere and you've been told there's supposed to be 60 teachers or something, and there's actually 3, and you're like, oh my, all these activities that you were going to do are kind of thrown away. But there, you have to adapt, right? Yeah.
Hey, that reminds me. I turned up for a training session, having planned for 2 days. I turned up for a training session at an organization that shall not be named, and there was one teacher.
There you go.
There was one teacher sitting in the classroom. Who was that teacher?
That was me. Yes, it was. That was the first meeting, wasn't it? I organized that training. I was so embarrassed. I couldn't. It was awful. I think I managed to grab another guy, Gavin, to come and sit with us.
How much did you have to pay him to come and attend?
bought him, and maybe I had to buy him a couple of drinks or something for his lunch. Thank you.
Okay, but that was a high and a low, because I got to meet you, Del. So exactly. There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But and just going to the highs, I mean, particularly, obviously, we've had a couple of years where we weren't able to do face-to-face training. Coming back after that face-to-face training was a real high. And then meeting people who had joined our, like I said, we see the same names in these webinars and the ELTea Times and the ELTea Time Pluses, and then meeting them face-to-face and seeing them. I mentioned Guy earlier. I met Guy at Camp Teasol. It was really cool. I met people at recent events, and they've shown me pictures that we've taken 3 years ago before we went online. So it was that kind of thing is like really heartwarming, that people stay with you, and certainly participants and in online sessions and face-to-face sessions that you see time and time again really make it worthwhile, and really sort of give you the sense that you must be doing something right if people are coming to see you again. So that's probably a high for me.
Yeah.
Cool. What a nice way to finish. We can't answer every single question. I've put the link to the NAL course that me and John did into the chat. I managed to find that. So if you want, we're not promoting that or anything, but we can say it was a really great course. I think there's one teacher to trainer, isn't there, as well, which might be even more beneficial. Teacher to trainer and then trainer development. Have a look at that. And I just want to say what a real joy it is to work with you and talk to you again, John. And I hope you're keeping well.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, good to see you again. And always a pleasure.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. Would you like to finish? Would you like to end with anything, or you're good?
No, I just think if there's teachers out there who want to get into training, just go for it. Try some of the things that we mentioned today. Get in contact with Mr. Dell as well and pick his brain. He might be able to give you some more advice. And just get yourself out there and try it. And all the best. And hope you have a happy training journey like we've had, really, Dell. And it's
absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, John. Take care of yourself. And thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll see you again next month. We have an ELTea Time with Super and Blue, who are going to be talking about using images. So please come along to that. That's on, well, it will be advertised, but it's on August the 17th. So take care, everybody. All the best. Bye-bye. Cheers, John.